Myth: smoking marijuana impairs driving in a manner that is worse than alcohol. Marijuana consumption is responsible for tens of thousands of traffic accidents every year. Quote, the extent of the problem of marijuana-impaired driving is startling. Marijuana smoking has disastrous effects on driving. Karen Tandy, U.S. DEA Administrator, 2005 through 2007. Fact: marijuana intoxication appears to play, at most, a minor role in traffic injuries. While it is well established that alcohol consumption increases motor vehicle accident risk, evidence of marijuana's culpability in on-road driving accidents and injury is nominal by comparison. That's not to say that smoking marijuana won't temporarily impair psychomotor skills. Given a strong enough dose, it most certainly will. However, pot's psychomotor impairment is seldom severe or long-lasting, and variations in driving behavior after marijuana consumption are noticeably less pronounced than the impairments exhibited by drunk drivers. Unlike motorists under the influence of alcohol, individuals who have recently smoked pot are aware of their impairment and try to compensate for it accordingly, either by driving more cautiously or by expressing an unwillingness to drive altogether. As reported in a 2008 Israeli study assessing the impact of marijuana and alcohol on driving performance, quote, subjects seemed to be aware of their impairment after THC intake and tried to compensate by driving slower. Alcohol seemed to make them overly confident and caused them to drive faster than in control sessions. A previous report by Toronto's Centre for Addiction and Mental Health reached a similar conclusion, finding subjects who have received alcohol tend to drive in a more risky manner. The more cautious behavior of subjects who have received marijuana decreases the impact of the drug on performance, whereas the opposite holds true for alcohol. Of course, none of this information is meant to imply that smoking marijuana makes you a safe driver. Smoking marijuana can alter driving performance. In closed course and driving simulator studies, marijuana's acute effects on driving include minor impairments in tracking, eye movement control, and reaction time, as well as variation in lateral positioning headway. Drivers under the influence of cannabis tend to follow less closely the vehicle in front of them. And speed, as previously noted, drivers tend to decrease speed following cannabis inhalation. Moreover, a handful of studies have reported a positive association between very recent cannabis exposure and a gradually increased risk of vehicle accident, though this increased risk is far lower than the risk presented by the consumption of even small amounts of alcohol. For example, a 2007 case control study published in the Canadian Journal of Public Health reviewed 10 years of U.S. auto fatality data. Investigators found that U.S. drivers with blood alcohol levels of 0.05, a level below the legal limit for intoxication in the United States, experienced an elevated crash risk that was more than 3 times higher than individuals who tested positive for marijuana. A prior review of auto accident fatality data from France reported similar results, finding that drivers who tested positive for any amount of alcohol had a 4 times greater risk of having a fatal accident than did drivers who tested positive for marijuana. Both studies noted that, overall, few traffic accidents appeared to be attributed to a driver's operating a vehicle while impaired by cannabis. To summarize, a motorist who has just smoked marijuana is a safer driver than one who has just consumed alcohol, even quantities of alcohol that are well within the legal limit for drinking and driving in most countries. But he or she is arguably not a safe driver. As with alcohol or most over-the-counter cold remedies, cannabis consumers are best advised to abstain from operating a motor vehicle for several hours after imbibing, and they should always designate at least one person to act as a sober, designated driver.